And my personal worst experience with hazing was in 2005. I was a Lance Corporal at the time. I was in Udari, Kuwait, our Camp Buring. My platoon commander had found out my first name, and everyone in my platoon was addressing me by my first name, Lars. One day as I was passing him, he said, "How's it going, Lars?" And I kind of muttered under my breath, "Not too bad, Jimmy." And, well, this was against the rules. I thought it was funny at the time. He got upset and reprimanded me verbally and went on his way. Some of the squad leaders and team leaders in my squad asked me what I'd said that upset him, and I told them. And first one, just to like push, get on the ground, do push-ups. I figured, okay, I'm going to have to do some push-ups for that. And then others started crowding around, and they took me behind the tents. I was forced to do push-ups while being kicked in the ribs. I did them repeatedly until my arms could barely move. I was then forced to low crawl with my face on the ground, and basically low crawling is when you're crawling with your face down. I had sand packed in my eyelids. I had sand caked in blood from my nose. I had cuts all over my face from rocks and things that had scraped my face. After I was thoroughly exhausted, I was forced to do ground fighting with a much larger Marine who was basically throwing me repeatedly face first into the ground. My rifle was taken from me and filled with sand, which I don't know if you've ever fired M16. It makes it completely unfireable, and we are in the rear area of a war zone at the time. Later that night, someone had taken a sheet of plywood, or a thin sheet of plywood, and carved a wooden rifle out of it. I believe we have a picture of that. This is, if the slideshow is ready. This is just a picture from training in New Orleans. I have the one with the mohawk in the right corner. Go back. Oh, back. Back one more. At the time, I didn't see anything wrong with this punishment. I accepted that I had violated the chain of command and that I deserved to be punished. As oddly, after this time, I would get kind of eerie whenever I heard the name Jimmy, and I didn't see any connection. That night, I was assigned every third shift of fire watch, which is basically our shifts of just walking around the berthing. So I was tasked with an essay that I believe it was, I can't remember how many thousands of words it was, but it was due the next morning. As a side effect, I was either spent the entire night walking around the post or the tent, or sitting on my cot with a flashlight, attempting to write an essay. And about halfway through the night, I was so sleep deprived, I'd forgotten how to read. I couldn't recognize faces, and I just had to sit there for a while before I remembered what I was even doing. Sorry, I don't have pictures of it. The next day, my arms had swollen, and as I was leaving and attempting to salute officers, I had to struggle to lift my hand up all the way. They just basically turned the muscles of my arm into mush. It was months before I was able to do the same number of pull-ups, and no one really understood it. And I had showed my extremely swollen arms to the platoon corpsman multiple times, and he said, "Come back in a day." And by the time I actually got light duty for it, they'd already gone down, and I had regained probably about half of my ability to move them. As I said earlier, I was at the beginning of the war, I was very pro-war, and I very strongly believed in the military and what they're saying. Certain events gradually eroded away my faith in the military. It kind of started when I myself was still a boot, and just listening to stories from Iraq War veterans, very reminiscent to what we've been hearing here. It started to question whether our mission was as clear-cut and as the administration had made it seem. Also getting to the point of incompetence in high places. During the whole deployment, a lot of our machine guns and rocket launchers were broken, or at the very least misfired frequently because they were very old. We had informed my chain, we had made it as far as Kuwait when one of the field grade officers had noticed that the front sight had broken off one of the SMAs, and he was furious and demanded we all sign statements explaining who had it when it broke, why did it break, and we just had to calmly explain, sir, it's been broken for the past year. You didn't notice it during pre-deployment inspection because you were concerned that not everyone had sewn name tapes onto their backpacks and flak jackets. And throughout the entire deployment, I never simultaneously had a proper set of night vision equipment. Actually, if we go to the next slide, I can. This is me posing after a live fire range. That weapon is a Mark 153 small shoulder-fired multi-purpose assault weapon. It weighs 17 pounds, as well as the rocket screwed in back, which would weigh an additional 12 pounds. Okay. So moving forward, I was also never simultaneously had a proper set of night vision equipment the entire deployment. I either never had the goggles, the helmet mount, or the infrared laser mounted to my rifle simultaneously, so I would have been unable to fight effectively in a night fight. My personal first aid kit was used during a training mission on a role player. I was promised it would be replaced before we deployed, and then while we were on ship, and then after we got back from deployment, and about a year afterward, I wound up turning it into empty. I brought in a military surplus first aid kit just to demonstrate all the components that were missing from mine. This is a rubber tourniquet for stopping arterial bleeding. This is Quick Clot. It's a clotting agent you pour in wounds to slow the bleeding, as well as several sterile pressure dressings and bandages. In a sort of a half-assed effort to replace these, I was given unsterile ace bandages and green bandanas, which are really only designed to be used as slings. I was issued a $900 rifle scope without the proper Allen wrench that I'd need to tighten it to the handle of my M16, so it kept falling off. And in its place, I use a $300 holographic sight that I purchased with my own money. Right now, I loaned that to another Marine who's deploying to Iraq in 4 days.